The Eagle Story, 1980 to 1998. Have you ever heard of a car brand that died twice? First, as an innovative pioneer that nobody understood, then as a corporate afterthought that nobody wanted. This is the story of Eagle, a name that appeared on American roads in 1980, vanished briefly, then returned in 1988 wearing someone else's identity. And by 1998, it was gone for good. Yet most people today couldn't tell you a single Eagle model if their life depended on it. But here's the twist. One of those forgotten Eagles invented an entire automotive category that now dominates global sales. The crossover. That vehicle you see everywhere, blending car comfort with SUV capability. And Eagle did it first, back when nobody even had a name for what it was. So how does a brand invent the future, then disappear before anyone notices? When survival meant innovation. Our story begins in the desperate final years of American Motors Corporation. By 1979, AMC was suffocating. Market share had collapsed below 2%. The oil shocks had devastated consumer confidence. And the big three were circling like sharks, waiting for the little independent automaker to finally bleed out. AMC's lineup reflected their struggle. The Concorde, a sensible but boring sedan. The Pacer, a fishbowl on wheels that looked futuristic but drove like yesterday. The Gremlin, whose very name suggested something you didn't want to own. And then there was Jeep, the one bright spot that actually made money. Inside AMC's engineering department, a small team led by Roy Lund was chasing an unusual idea. What if you could take a normal passenger car and give it genuine four-wheel drive capability? Not the crude, truck-based system you found in a Jeep CJ. Something smoother. Something automatic. Something you could drive every single day without feeling like you were piloting farm equipment. The automotive establishment thought they were crazy. Four-wheel drive belonged on trucks. Putting in a passenger car made no sense. The added weight would kill fuel economy. The complexity would drive up costs. And who will buy such a thing anyway? AMC was desperate enough to find out. The birth of something new. When a 1980 AMC Eagle rolled into dealerships, it looked almost ordinary at first glance. Take a Concorde wagon or sedan, lift it 3 inches, add some plastic fender flares, bolt on a different grille, and there you had it. But underneath that conventional body sat genuine innovation. AMC engineers had adapted a viscous coupling system developed by Ferguson and GKN. This wasn't a part-time, four-wheel drive setup you had to manually engage. It was a full-time, all-wheel drive system that automatically distributed power based on which wheels had traction. The viscous coupling itself was elegantly simple, a series of metal plates spinning in thick silicone fluid inside a sealed chamber. When all 4 wheels turned to the same speed, the coupling did nothing. But the moment one wheel started slipping, the difference in rotation speed caused the fluid to heat up and thicken, automatically transferring more torque to the wheels with grip. Car and driver tested a 1980 Eagle and came away impressed. The base price was $7,549. The standard engine was AMC's reliable 258 cubic inch inline-six, producing 110 horsepower. The automatic transmission was based on Chrysler's TorqueFlite, already proven as one of the most durable units in the industry. What surprised reviewers was how normal the Eagle felt. It didn't roar or clatter like a truck. The ride quality remained comfortable. Yet in snow, mud, or loose gravel, it simply went where you pointed it, scrambling over terrain that would leave a conventional sedan spinning helplessly. AMC sold over 45,000 Eagles in that first year. For a struggling company that had been staring at extinction, those numbers felt like salvation. Expanding the vision. Encouraged by initial success, AMC expanded the lineup. By 1981, they introduced an optional Iron Duke 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine for buyers prioritizing fuel economy. The Select Drive system arrived, allowing drivers to switch between 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive. The Eagle SX/4 appeared as a 2-door coupe variant, an attempt to inject sportiness into the practical all-wheel drive formula. With its lifted stance, muscular fender flares, and available sport graphics, The SX/4 looked like it belonged in a rally race rather than a suburban driveway. The camback wagon offered a fastback rear hatch design, maximizing cargo space in a shorter package. It was practical transportation for people living in harsh climates where winter lasted 6 months. Popular science called the Eagle a car that handles like a sedan yet climbs like a mountain goat. Motor Trend awarded it their Car of the Year honor for 1981, recognition that validated AMC's gamble. But recognition doesn't pay the bills. And by the mid-1980s, AMC was running out of money again. The French Connection and the Chrysler Solution. Starting in 1979, French automaker Renault had been investing in AMC, eventually acquiring nearly 47% of the company by 1983. Renault needed a foothold in the American market. AMC needed capital to survive. Except it didn't work. Renault designed vehicles like the Alliance sold poorly. American consumers didn't trust French engineering. Meanwhile, Renault was losing billions in France and growing impatient with their expensive American experiment. By 1987, both companies were looking for an exit. Enter Chrysler Corporation. Lee Iacocca's Chrysler had recovered from its own near-death experience, saved by government loans and the massive success of the minivan. Now flush with cash and hungry for growth, Chrysler saw an opportunity. Not in AMC's aging passenger cars, not in Renault's French imports, but in one specific asset, Jeep. The Jeep brand was pure gold. SUV sales were climbing. Jeep had brand equity money couldn't buy, decades of off-road heritage that resonated with American consumers. Chrysler paid $1.5 billion for AMC, primarily to get Jeep. But buying AMC came with complications. Dealer franchise laws meant Chrysler couldn't simply absorb AMC's retail network overnight. And contractual obligations with Renault remained in force, requiring Chrysler to fulfill engine purchase agreements or pay penalties. The solution was tactical: create a new brand called Eagle to serve as a bridge. Convert existing AMC/Jeep dealers into Jeep/Eagle franchises. Let Jeep carry the profit load while Eagle absorbed the leftover vehicles nobody quite knew what to do with. From that moment forward, Eagle was doomed. It wasn't born from vision. It was born from legal necessity and corporate bookkeeping. A brand without an identity. The Eagle lineup under Chrysler ownership became a bizarre Automotive United Nations. The Eagle medallion was simply a rebadged Renault 21 sedan built in France. It drove like a European car because it was a European car, confusing buyers who expected something American. The Eagle Premier used a Renault platform but was assembled in Canada. It was competent but carried no emotional appeal. Neither French nor American. Neither sporty nor luxurious. Just a sedan that existed without a compelling reason to be chosen. The Eagle Summit and Eagle Vista were rebadged Mitsubishi products, small Japanese cars wearing Eagle badges. Reliable and efficient, sure. But why buy an Eagle Summit when you could buy the Mitsubishi Mirage it was based on? Then came the exception, the Eagle Talon, the one they remember. Based on Mitsubishi's Eclipse and built at the Diamond Star Motors plant in Illinois, the Talon was everything else in the Eagle lineup wasn't. Exciting, capable, and genuinely desirable. The TSI AWD version featured a 2.0-liter turbocharged four-cylinder producing 195 horsepower, later increased to 210, paired with all-wheel drive and a 5-speed manual transmission. Motor Trend clocked the Talon TSI AWD at 6.6 seconds from 0 to 60 miles per hour, impressive numbers for 1990. The turbocharged engine delivered 203 pound-feet of torque, giving the Talon a responsive, eager feel. All-wheel drive meant you could actually use that power in poor weather, unlike front-wheel drive performance cars. The Talon found its audience among enthusiasts who cared more about performance than badges. It became a tuner favorite, a platform that responded well to modifications. Ironically, the Talon's success highlighted Eagle's fundamental problem. The brand's best vehicle wasn't even an Eagle. It was a Mitsubishi wearing borrowed clothes. One genuine Eagle, too late. In 1993, Chrysler finally gave Eagle something genuinely its own, the Vision. Built on Chrysler's new LH platform, the Vision showcased the cab-forward design philosophy that pushed the wheels toward the corners and maximized interior space. It was comfortable, reasonably priced, and genuinely competitive with rivals from Toyota and Honda. Road and Track praised its handling balance. Consumer Reports noted its spacious interior. It should have been Eagle's breakthrough moment. But by 1993, nobody cared about Eagle anymore. The Vision competed directly against its own corporate siblings, the Chrysler Concorde and Dodge Intrepid, both of which had stronger brand recognition. Dealers prioritized Jeep sales, which generated higher profits. The Vision sat in showrooms, largely ignored. By 1997, Chrysler had seen enough. The Eagle brand was officially discontinued. The 1998 Talon became the final vehicle to wear the Eagle name. And just like that, an 18-year experiment ended with barely a whisper. The legacy nobody acknowledges. Here's what makes the Eagle story tragic. They got it right the first time. That 1980 AMC Eagle, the weird, lifted wagon nobody understood, it invented the crossover segment 3 decades before crossovers became the dominant vehicle category worldwide. Today's Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, Subaru Outback, and hundreds of other crossovers all follow the formula AMC pioneered. Take a passenger car platform, add all-wheel drive, increase ground clearance slightly, and market it as a vehicle that does everything reasonably well. But AMC was too early. The market wasn't ready. Fuel was cheap. SUVs were just beginning their rise. Nobody had a category name for what the Eagle represented. So it sold modestly, made a profit for a few years, then faded as AMC's financial crisis deepened. When Chrysler revived the Eagle name, they squandered whatever goodwill remained. Instead of building on the original Eagle's innovation, they turned it into a dumping ground for vehicles nobody else wanted. A brand that once meant pioneering engineering became synonymous with confusion and compromise. Eagle's failure wasn't about bad products. The original AMC Eagle was genuinely innovative. The Talon was genuinely exciting. The Vision was genuinely competitive. Eagle failed because Chrysler never gave it a real identity, a clear purpose, or the commitment needed to build a lasting brand. It existed to solve corporate problems, not customer needs. And customers sensed that immediately. The forgotten pioneer. Today, if you mention Eagle to most car enthusiasts, you'll get blank stares. Maybe someone remembers the Talon. Very few remember the original AMC Eagle that started it all. But every time you see a crossover SUV, every time you watch a RAV4 or CR-V drive past, remember that a struggling independent automaker in 1980 invented that formula. They created the blueprint everyone else would follow. They just didn't survive long enough to claim credit for it. That's the real tragedy of Eagle. Not that it failed, but that it succeeded in ways nobody recognized until decades too late. If you remember seeing an Eagle on the road, drop a comment below. Hit that like button if this forgotten piece of automotive history surprised you. And subscribe for more stories about the cars that invented the future but didn't live to see it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.